There's been too many species that have gone into extinct during human times, or even on the brink. It'd be sad to go down in the future and to have lots of our iconic spots disappear because we didn't do anything to actually look after our wildlife. My name's Chris McCormick. I'm the Operations Manager at the Royal Albatross Centre, which is managed by the Otago Peninsula Trust, which is New Zealand's oldest not-for-profit trust. We are the wildlife capital of New Zealand. We have an abundance of wildlife from the albatross here, the blue penguins, yellow-eyed sea lions, fur seals. And it's because we are a finger of land entering into the Pacific Ocean, and there's the southern current that passes by the coastline here. So the food source is actually very close by to the peninsula, so lots of wildlife from here doesn't have to travel too far in order to search for food. This is the world's only mainland breeding colony of Royal Albatross. They are one of 21 species of albatross in the world. 3 of those species are located only in the northern hemisphere and the rest are in the southern hemisphere. And just in New Zealand's waters alone we have about 11 to 12 different species on remote subantarctic islands. So we are the wildlife capital of New Zealand and the albatross capital of New Zealand also. The albatross, they're on a biennial breeding cycle, so they only lay 1 egg every 2 years. And the breeding season starts in September and finishes a year later in September. So in September, October, breeding birds are returning back to start to breed. They haven't seen each other for a whole year, so there's lots of pair bonding, mating is occurring because obviously we hope to have a fertile egg. And then eggs are laid in November, just that 1 egg. Non-breeding birds are usually returning back and they're coming back to socialise and to gam and to party and to court with other non-breeding birds because that's their period of time that they're going to spend to find a future mate. So while those birds are doing their wee thing, breeding birds are incubating the egg, which is a long period of 79 days. Shared duties between both male and female. And chicks will start to hatch in mid-January to February. So right now, we've had all chicks hatch, they're at their guard stage, but we do have some that are entering their post-guard stage, which means that they'll be left on their own. And both parents are out at sea foraging for more food to bring back and coming back every 2 to 4 days to feed their chick. Usually in July, August, chicks are weighing heavier than their own parents. So they do have a little bit of extra weight when they fledge in September, so that's their first ever flight from the colony. Not taught anything at all, it's just all instinct built into them. And then they'll spend the next 5 years out at sea without touching land, flying to the coast of South America, and they'll circumnavigate around the southern hemisphere. And then when it's time to come back to land, they'll return back to Tāroa Head. During the incubation period, the rangers are inspecting nest sites, making sure there's no broken shards that could crack the egg, no rocks. So actually checking out the nest sites to make sure that the eggs won't break. But also along the way they'll see whether the eggs are fertile or not. So this season we were very lucky and we only had 2 eggs out of the 41 eggs laid that were infertile. So it's been a really, really good season and we've got 35 chicks on the headland, which is a record. We do our own trapping, but the Department of Conservation have their traps right around the reserve. So the areas that we're focusing on are the likes of feral cats, mustelids, which are stoats and ferrets, rats, mice, hedgehogs. So anything that can cause a threat, not just only to the albatross, but the other seabirds here as well. So targo shags, red-billed gulls, royal spoonbills, and the little blue penguins. So we're very fortunate because of our location and these other operators, and there's lots of eradication of those pests and predators to help with other endangered species on the peninsula here.
Really, their major threat is out at sea. That's where they spend the majority of their life. It's 80% for albatross, their life is out at sea. And so that's where they encounter fishing boats, they encounter rising sea temperatures and plastic pollution. Rising sea temperatures means the top water column's getting warmer, and so all the krill and things which like cold water dive deeper, and therefore albatross which don't dive themselves, they have to feed at the surface, they can't get to that sort of stuff. And that works to make them more susceptible to the other threat of fisheries, because then they use that sense of smell, desperate for food, to find a fishing boat. Then they're endangered to longline fishing, so the hooks, when they go out, the albatross might try to get the bait, and if they get hooked on the way down, of course they'll drown. And if they get hooked on the way up, if that fishing boat's pulling it up, it's got its catch, they grab the fish on the end of the hook. Particularly around the waters of Argentina, they've seen that fishermen will pull that albatross up. They want that hook back, and the easiest way to do that is to sever off the bill. And so don't even kill the bird because it takes too much time.
We've noticed over the last few years that albatross have brought plastics to feed their chick, and that's been regurgitated, which is great, so it means that it's not in their system, but we still don't know what's left behind as well. There is a smaller species called the Laysan albatross in the Midway Atoll Islands, so up in the northern hemisphere. They've been catastrophically affected by plastic. They feed on plastic, mistaking it for food. They feel full, but they're actually not. They're slowly starving to death. With our tours, a portion of our tickets goes to conservation on the headland here. Directly for the blue penguins, the money goes into the science advisor, it goes into building nest boxes, predator trapping, which is an all year round project, revegetation and planting. For the Albatross Centre, we run education programs, but also a portion of our tickets goes to the Te Puriei Pukekura Management Trust, so they can continue the management of the headlands. A lot of our programs that collate with conservation, it's really engaging with students to learn about the wildlife. Why are we protecting them? How can we protect them? What can we do on our daily routines to change things to help protect them?
A lot of that program's the red-billed gulls as well, which is great. And, seagulls everywhere are pretty underappreciated, and it's the same here. Even though our two species of red-billed and black-billed gulls are both endangered, both threatened, the black-billed gull is one of the most endangered gulls in the world. So albatross are a brilliant key species to make an example of because they're so fascinating. And we might get one or two students in each program that might become ambassadors or join efforts to help with the cause of looking after our wildlife. Lots of people think protect the wildlife, but it's also us. We need to look after ourselves. Even just small microplastics floating in the ocean. If a fish is going to feed that and we're bringing that to the supermarket and it's going onto the dinner table, we're eating plastic. So we want to look after our ecosystem because it's in our benefit to do that, not just because of the wildlife, but for us.